Hello to my cutest little champions. I welcome you all to score 99% in 99 days, and I hope everything is going very well in your life. I know exams are near, you might be tensed, but children, everything is going to fall in its place. You just give your 100% efforts. That's all. And I hope in science and math we are really helping you well. So we have already completed sample paper 1 and 2. This is time for sample paper 3. Right? Now if you dedicate your Mondays and Wednesdays for science, then you can be assured that everything is going to be settled. So Monday and Wednesday we upload science videos, that is sample paper solutions. At 6 p.m. sharp we give chemistry solutions. Okay, at 7:30 I give biology solution, and at 9 p.m. Soumik sir will be giving physics solution. Okay, now on Tuesdays and Thursdays Ankit sir gives the solution for math video, which will be uploaded at 6 p.m. as well. Okay, so Mondays and Wednesdays for us, and Tuesdays and Thursdays for what? Maths. And then you have Friday and Saturday and Sunday for other subjects like social science, which might take a lot of time, and also for a language subject or any other optional subject that you are having. Yeah, works? So do let us know that whether our initiative which we are doing is helpful for you. So I know that a lot of you might have bought the books with money, a lot of you might not be having that much money to buy the books for sample papers, and it's for all of you guys, my dear children. These videos are for free, so make sure that you are utilizing it really well, and do let us know in the comment section as well if it is helpful. We will be really happy to see your cute little comments as well. Yeah, chalo. So no more bakwas, let me get into the session. So over here you can see 7 1-marker question in this question paper, 4 2-marker, 2 3-marker, and 1 5-marker and 1 4-marker. Total, if you see, it will be out of 30 marks. So your science paper is out of 80 marks. Out of 80 marks, 30 comes from bio itself, which is a huge number, my dear children, isn't it? 30 is a huge number. So it comes from biology. So give a little more priority to biology, because you know 5 chapters are there. In chemistry and physics, I don't think 5 chapters are there, 4 or 3 might be there, but over here you have 5 chapters, so you have to prioritize biology a bit more. Yeah, chalo. So section A consists of 1-marker question. The first type of questions incoming under 1 marker is the MCQ, so let's solve it. The first question says, in the given transverse section of leaf, identify the layer of cells where maximum photosynthesis occurs. Okay, what do you mean by transverse section? So for example, this is a leaf. If I cut it like this and I see it sideways, if I cut the leaf, okay, this is a leaf, I cut it and I see sideways. So this thing that I am able to see, okay, this thing that I will be able to see, the inner structure of a leaf, it is known as a transverse section. So it will look something like this. So if when I cut, it will look something like this, not obviously this broad, but yeah, and here you will be having layers of cells. That is what is being shown over here. So I hope now you understand what do you mean by transverse section. All these little details you should know. Now the question says where maximum photosynthesis occurs. So which organelle in plant is responsible for maximum amount of photosynthesis, or basically photosynthesis, my dear children? It is what? Chloroplast. So we have to spot those layers which have high amount of chloroplast, because chloroplast will contain chlorophyll, and chlorophyll will be responsible for what? The absorption of sunlight. Yeah. So I'll tell you, this layer that you see is epidermis, this layer is lower epidermis, this is upper epidermis. Over here, these cells that you see in stack, you call these cells as palisade mesophyll cells. What do you call them? Palisade mesophyll cells. Okay, now here I am telling you, you have so much amount of chloroplast, my dear children. So obviously this guy gets the first rank. This guy definitely has lots and lots of what? Photosynthesis happening, or this is responsible for photosynthesis to happen. Now over here you see these cells which are kind of not regular in shape and things like that, and they do have little spaces also in between. Okay, so what do I call this layer as? I call this layer as spongy mesophyll layer. Spongy mesophyll layer, cellular layer. Okay, so here also you will be finding chloroplast, but lesser chloroplast than this guy. So I will give it second rank in terms of chloroplast. Okay, and apart from that, it will be having, the leaf is there, so obviously vascular bundles will be there, which will be helping in transferring water and food to the leaf part as well. Yeah, now this is the lower epidermis. In the lower epidermis, these cells that you see over here, my dear children, they are known as guard cells. Okay, what do you call them? You call them guard cells. Okay, and guard cells also have chloroplast. it also has chloroplast, but the least amount of it if we compare with others. So I'll give it third rank. Now you are asked where this maximum photosynthesis occur. So the ones that have more amount of chloroplast, there will be maximum photosynthesis. So I will say it is second and third layer. Second and third, B is the answer for this. Second and third, B is the answer for this. Okay. Guard cells also have, but lesser than it. So obviously if you have lesser, that means lesser amount of photosynthesis. So maximum photosynthesis happen over second and third layer. Let's see if your answer is correct. Yes, the answer is correct, and the answers are from the marking scheme given by the CBSE itself. So none of the answers that you are going to see over here is given by me. It is by the CBSE board itself. Yeah, chalo. Next question. I hope it is understood. It's the ninth question that you have. Observe the experimental setup shown below. Okay. Name the chemical indicated as X that can absorb the gas which is evolved by the byproduct of respiration. My dear children, so it is said that some gas is being released as byproduct of respiration. So which gas is released as byproduct of respiration? In respiration, oxygen is being utilized, whereas CO2 is being released by the plants. Okay, in photosynthesis, CO2 is being utilized, oxygen is being released. Ulta is happening. Okay, in respiration, oxygen is being utilized, and what is being released? CO2 is being released by the plants. So it is said that some chemical present in over here, that is X chemical, is the one responsible for absorbing the CO2. So what is this X, my dear children? This X is always potassium hydroxide. What is it? Potassium hydroxide. Potassium hydroxide has the ability to capture what, or to absorb what? CO2. You get it? Now, do you think photosynthesis will properly happen over here? Because in photosynthesis, what do you need? You need CO2, you need H2 to give what? C6H12O6 plus O2 plus H2O plus ATP. But do you think you can get CO2 over here? No, because this guy is absorbing it. You get it? So potassium hydroxide is the one to blame. So I'll say this is the answer. Works? Now, if a tall pea plant is crossed with pure dwarf pea plant, what percentage of F1 and F2 generation respectively will be tall? So if a tall pea plant, okay, if a tall pea plant like this, we assume it to be like this, and a pure dwarf pea plant, okay, is what? They are doing breeding, okay. So over here the parent is like this, so gametes will be what, children? Capital T, small t, small t. So over here they have not mentioned pure tall plant, but still I am taking it like that only, okay. I am taking it like that since they have not mentioned it anyways. Fine. Now this can cross with this, you get capital T small t, this with this capital T small t, this with this capital T small t, this with this capital T small t. So I see all of them has capital T and small t. So wherever capital T is there, it will dominate over small t, and hence all of them, capital T stands for what? Tallness. So all of them will be tall, my dear children. So can I say in the first generation, this is the first generation, right? In the first generation, 100% of them are tall. Can I say that? Yes, I can say that. Now, if you are asked about second generation, how do you find second generation? You do selfing between these progenies. You cross these progenies itself. So it will look like this. The parents are capital T small t, capital T small t. Okay, this is the parents. Now, what about the gametes? Gametes will be capital T, small t, capital T, small t. When you want to fuse, you fuse with this capital T, capital T, capital T small t, capital T small t, small t, small t. So over here, this is tall because both are dominant alleles. This again is there, someone is there tall, okay, which is why it will dominate, and hence this will also be tall. This will also be tall. What about this guy? This is going to be dwarf as there is no capital T allele, my dear children. So can I say 3:1 ratio is there? 3:1 ratio, and if I want to find the percentage of it, can I say 75% of them are tall, whereas 25% of them are dwarf? Together makes 100%, right? So 75% of them are tall, my dear children. So in this case, in F1, F2 generation, what percentage is there? In F1 generation, 100 is there. You saw it right here, okay. And in F2, what do you have? You have 75%. So what becomes your answer, my dear children? This becomes your answer. Cool? Yes? So yes, this is the answer. Fine. Chalo. Observe the three figures given below. Which of the following depicts tropic movements appropriately? What do you mean by tropic movements? Tropic movements are the ones where the stimulus moves according to the direction of the, the response is according to the direction of the stimulus. For example, sun is the stimulus, or basically light is the stimulus. So the response to it will be towards it or away from it. Okay, it will be towards it or away from it. Either way, it will be what? Tropic movements. The one towards will be positive tropism, one away will be negative tropism. Okay, cool, that's how it works. So it cannot go in other direction. It cannot go in any other direction. For example, here it goes, then it is wrong. Either away or towards, that is tropic movements. Now over here, they have mentioned about a plant. They have put a plant like this, and they are showing the root is growing somewhere like here and there, not very clear. But over here, in this particular picture, the shoot is supposedly growing up and the root is going down. This is actually a case of tropic movements, where this particular shoot that you see is showing what? Is showing probably, what is it showing? It is showing positive phototropism, assuming that there is a sun over here, and this root is showing negative phototropism. Negative phototropism as in moving away from it, and usually this is how it works. Roots don't grow upwards, it grows downwards, right? Now there is one more thing. Since sun is anyways not drawn over here, we can assume that one more thing can happen, can be true. The shoot is showing negative geotropism. What do you mean by geotropism? Where gravity is a stimulus. So you know the shoot grows away from the gravity and the root grows towards the gravity. So the one that grows towards, you call this as positive geotropism. So because of both these reasons, this particular picture would be entirely correct. So I'll say it's not B and C that is correct, not A and C, B only, no, C only. I see C is the only one that is correct. Root cannot go upwards, the shoot cannot grow downwards, anyways the sun cannot be down, okay, and also you have gravity. So it has to show negative one, right, and this has to show positive. So again this is wrong. So I'll say the only correct answer that I see over here is C. Okay, it will be C. So this becomes your answer. Cool. Next question. The diagram shown below depicts pollination. What do you mean by pollination? Transfer of pollen grains from the male part to the female part. Okay. Now choose the options that will show a maximum variation in the offspring. Maximum variation. Maximum variation means you need to include two parents over there. Then only you get maximum variation. You need to include what? Two parents over there. Then you will get maximum variation, because one type of genetic material from one parent, other type of genetic material from another parent, together it comes, you get a new type of genetic material, totally different. Okay, so if it is self pollination, my dear children, there are two types of pollination, self and cross. Self pollination basically means, if this is the plant, from the anther to the stigma of the same plant or between the same flowers it is happening, you call this as self pollination. What is the problem with self pollination? Anyways, you are taking the pollination is happening between the parts of the same plant. That means all the cells will have same genetic material. The germ cells will also have same genetic material. So anyway, there won't be any much amount of variation that you could see. But if it is between plant A and plant B, don't you think there will be too much amount of variation, my dear children? Yes, there will be too much amount of variation, because two parents are being involved over here. So can I say B and D, where cross pollination is happening, that is where most amount of variation could be seen. So B and C you have to find out. B and D, sorry, B and D, not C. C is also self-pollination, A is also self-pollination, so I cannot include that. B and D includes cross-pollination, so I will say this is the answer. Cool? Works? Okay? Chalo. Next. Assertion. Height in pea plant is controlled by efficiency of enzymes and is thus genetically controlled. Height in pea plants is controlled by efficiency of enzyme and is thus genetically controlled. Do you think so? I'll tell you something very easy funda. So this is the DNA, my dear children, each of us have it, and the DNA has certain areas which is known as genes. These genes are responsible for coding what? Proteins. Okay, now these proteins can be in the form of enzymes, some hormones, pigments or anything. It can form anything. Now when I say that basically in a plant height is there, so probably there is another, or basically any hormones that will be playing a major role in plants. You do not have any such thing, but yeah, you have hormones like auxin and stuff like that, but I'm generally telling you, for hormone to be made, for example, A thing had to be converted into B. For A thing to get converted into B, suppose this is an active hormone that we have. Okay, this is the hormone responsible for height. Now, for doing this conversion, you need what? Enzyme, my dear children. What do you need? You need enzyme. If enzyme is not there, this conversion would not be taking place. So, do you think the height isn't it directly regulated by the proteins which are made by the genes? Yes. Can I say it is regulated by the proteins which are made by the genes? Yes. So, height of the plants is controlled by efficiency of enzymes, and is this genetically controlled? Yes, it is genetically controlled because the enzymes are being coded by the genes itself. And now, cellular DNA is the information source for making proteins in the cell. Isn't cellular DNA the source of information? Yes. So, can I say A is correct and the reason is also correct, and the reason is the correct explanation because you have cellular DNA which controls everything, which is why these things are happening, otherwise it won't be happening. So, can I say both A and R are true and R is the correct explanation of A? Yes, we can say that. Okay. So, please remember this particular funda, very, very important. No one should be telling you that genes are coding for hormones or things like directly. No, genes always code for proteins. Now, these proteins can have certain changes in them causing formation of enzymes, hormones or pigments if needed. Not directly genes would be coding for any hormones and things like that. Okay, please remember, you need enzymes. You need, for example, I will say, okay, I just removed it. So, I can just say one very important thing. Suppose you have genes and genes are coding for proteins. Remember, proteins can be enzymes or pigments. Remove hormones. Remove hormones. Let's not have hormones. Proteins and pigments. Sorry, enzymes and pigments. Now, these enzymes can in turn help in the formation of any hormones. Okay, these enzymes which are there can in turn help in the formation of any hormones. Just remove hormones from there. Cool? That works. So, genes codes for proteins. Proteins can be enzymes or in the form of pigments, and these enzymes can be helping in the formation of what? Hormones. That is much, much better. Yeah? Chalo. So, I hope you got the answer. This was the answer for this question. Yeah? Chalo. Next question. Last assertion reason, last 1 marker question. Amphibians can tolerate mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood. Is it true or false? Can they afford to mix oxygenated and deoxygenated? Can we afford, my dear children, can we human beings afford mixing of oxygenated and deoxygenated blood? No, my dear children. Why? Because our body have high energy requirements. Ma'am, what energy have to do with oxygen, ma'am? Well, basically, if you have studied something that is known as respiration, you might be aware that there is something that is known as aerobic respiration where you need oxygen. When oxygen is there, with the glucose has been oxidized. Glucose has been oxidized to produce what? ATP. So, when oxygen is there are more amount of ATP is being produced. If oxygen is not there, you get very less amount of ATP, and that is not very reliable source as well. So, obviously, we need too much amount of oxygen. If this oxygen itself is not there, we cannot code for ATPs or we cannot need ATPs. Okay. So, we cannot afford mixing of blood, but amphibians and amphibians and reptiles, they can do so. They are okay with that. In reptiles, you have certain exceptions like crocodiles and stuff like that. Okay, but mostly others, all of them, they can afford mixing of blood. Why? Because their energy requirements are not that high, just like us. For us, we need high energy. Why? To maintain a constant body temperature. We maintain a constant body temperature irrespective of what is outside. But in the case of amphibians and reptiles, they do not have a constant body temperature. It changes frequently, and hence they do not require energy also to maintain it. Okay, so they can afford. It is totally correct. Amphibians are animals with 2-chambered heart. That is absolutely wrong. Why? Because amphibians, my dear children, mixing of blood is possible since they have 3-chambered heart. So this is the chambers that they have. One is the right atrium, the other one is left atrium, and there is one ventricle. There is one ventricle. From the lungs, the oxygenated blood goes to the left atrium, then to the ventricle, my dear children. From the lungs, things goes to the left atrium first. This is what? Oxygenated blood. It goes to the ventricle and then it goes to the rest of the body. Suppose, from the body parts, the deoxygenated blood goes to the right atrium, then to the ventricle. So, here don't you think mixing of blood is happening? Here don't you think mixing of blood is happening? So, obviously, the blood that went over here was also mixed blood. From this, oxygen has been taken up and what is left behind? CO2 is left behind, that is given back. You get it? So there is mixing of blood, and here there are 3 chambers of heart. So I'll say assertion is true, reason is entirely false. So assertion is true, reason is false. This is in the case of amphibians and reptiles. They have 3 chambered heart. I hope you know that. Okay. In reptiles you have crocodiles who have 4 chambered heart, and they are an exception to it. Okay, because they have high energy requirements. Chalo. So that is also done. Now it's time for section B that contains 2 marker questions. So let's begin solving that. First question, how is the mode of action in beating of heart different from reflex actions? Give 4 examples, or basically give 4 points. So I'll tell you, beating of heart, do you think it is a temporary thing? Do you think beating of heart is a temporary thing? No, it's a permanent thing. It happens for so long. It will definitely happen without stopping, and the time it stops, we die, right? But reflex action, if you see, for example, if I touch the hot pan, I move my hand. This is a temporary action. I do not do this every time like this only. Do I do like this? No, my dear children, please remember. So over here, this reflex action is for a time period. It's temporary. After that, it's not there. Now, talking about beating of heart again. This, when beating of heart and everything is there, you do not usually involve skeletal muscles. Okay, what do you mean by skeletal muscles? Skeletal muscles are the one that is under our control. For example, over here, my hands over here, I have skeletal muscles, which is why, for example, if I now want to do like this, I am able to do. But in the case of a heart, they have more amount of smooth muscles, my dear children. They have smooth muscles. And smooth muscles, let me tell you, they are not under our control. For example, as of now when I am talking, I cannot think that, okay, the smooth muscles of my heart, please stop. It cannot happen. If that happens, then I am God. You get it? So smooth muscles are involuntary. So when you talk about beating of heart, you have smooth muscles around in your heart. But when you talk about reflex action, mostly you need voluntary things, something that you can control. So which is why reflex action always involves skeletal muscles rather than smooth muscles, my dear children. Okay, so you got 2 points. Apart from that also, you get so many points over here. Let me show you. So beating of heart, involuntary actions are actions which are not controlled by our will. So it comes under this category, that is beating of heart is involuntary action. But when I talk about reflex action, again they are sudden action in response to something. This is also involuntary itself. This is also not in your control. But let me tell you, it's a sudden action. It's not something that you initiate right now. That is initiated from the time being you are born. No, it's not like that. It's a sudden action that is there. So it is a sudden action, which, whereas this is a continuous action which happens throughout our life, and it is not controlled by us. Okay. Now over here, beating of heart do not need a stimulus, my dear children. For example, when I move away my hand from a pan, it's because it's hot. There is a stimulus. Otherwise, I would have kept my hand like that forever. You get it? So there is a stimulus which is causing the reflex action, whereas over here you do not have any stimulus. So I will say this is a good point. This is a really good point, this is a really good point, okay. Now these actions are regulated by brain, that is beating of heart. When you talk about reflex action, these actions are regulated by the spinal cord. I cannot directly say that it's totally regulated by spinal cord only, or it is totally regulated by brain only, but I can say it is majorly controlled. I would recommend and correct a bit, okay. These actions are majorly controlled by the brain, whereas these actions are majorly controlled by the spinal cord. You require both spinal cord and brain for its working, okay, for its proper working. But who is the major requirement over here in this beating of heart kit? It is brain, okay. Over here it is spinal cord. Now they do not involve skeletal muscle in beating of heart, whereas they do involve skeletal muscle in the case of reflex action. These actions are performed throughout one's life, very important point. These actions are produced in response to an event of emergency. The action may be quick or slow. Yeah, this is also a good point. But over here, reflex actions are always quick. That is why I call it reflex action. It has to be really, really fast. Which is why the spinal cord is involved better. Okay, the information is sent to brain also. But who is majorly responsible for reflex action is the spinal cord, because you need a fast response. If you are letting your brain process this information, it might take too long. You get it? The brain might think, and we not want thinking action. So I will recommend you to write this point, this point, this point. 3 points are done. One more point you want, I will say I will make you write this one. Okay, it is majorly controlled by brain, whereas this is majorly controlled by spinal cord. So for any 4 points, you get half marks, my dear children, and that way you get 2 marks. Okay, half mark each for 4 points, giving you 2 marks for this particular question. I hope this is clear. Now again, as I said, this is not something that I wrote. This is from CBSE's marking scheme, so please follow that. Yeah. Okay. Now patients whose gallbladder are removed are recommended to eat less oily food. What is the use of gallbladder? Gallbladder. Gallbladder is responsible for storing what? Storing bile juice, my dear children. It is responsible for storing bile juice. Now, it has something to do with this. Okay, so if gallbladder is not there, you cannot store bile juice. If bile juice is not stored, what is the function of bile juice? Its major function is what? Emulsification of fat. What do you mean by emulsification of fat? You have larger fat globules, you break them down into smaller fat globules. You call this process as emulsification. Why is it necessary? Because this is produced by the liver. Please remember, it is produced by the liver, but it is stored in the gallbladder. So, liver and gallbladder has a very cute association. So, this is suppose the liver. Here you will be having the gallbladder where things are being stored. Okay. Now, listen to me carefully. Why is it important? Why bile juice is important? Why emulsification of fat is important? The next gland which is there, the pancreas, it is now going to release certain enzymes such as, this is the pancreas, and it is going to release certain enzymes which such as pancreatic lipase, my dear children. Okay, lipase works on lipids, basically fats. So, this lipase, if it comes and acts on this, you do not have much surface area for it to act. But when you break it down, you have got more surface area, and if there is more surface area, there is much more proper breakdown of things as well. You get it? So, emulsification of fat is really important so that the enzymes can work properly and there could be good breakdown of fats. So, if bile juice is not stored, you cannot expect emulsification of fat. So, if emulsification of fat is not happening, can you expect a proper breakdown of fat? No. Get it? Which is why they are asked to have less oily food. Oil is basically fat. So, less fatty food because it cannot break down that. Yeah? Chalo. So, gallbladder stores bile which helps in emulsification of lipids. 1 mark. If you answer like that, you get 1 mark. In the absence of stored bile, emulsification of fat will be negligible and thus fat digestion will be slow and hence there are diet restrictions. So, in the first point you explained the function of it. In the second point, you said what will happen if it is not there. You get it? You get 1 mark for each. You get 2 marks like this. Cool? Chalo. Next. Name the substances other than water that are reabsorbed during urine formation. What are the 2 parameters that decide the amount of water that is reabsorbed in the kidneys? So, other than water, what are the things that is being reabsorbed? So, what happens is that first time, okay, when urine formation happens, lot of things are being put down into the nephron. Lot of things are being put down into the nephrons. For example, water, amino acids, glucose, iron, urea, and everything is being put into the nephron. But our body might be requiring water, so it is reabsorbed. Might be requiring amino acid, so it is reabsorbed. Might be requiring glucose if sugar is going down, so obviously you need to reabsorb the glucose that you already have. Ions also, but urea mostly it is taken, but very little. Usually it is given out because this is the waste that we are having. And these guys just came along because they were small, okay. So, these guys also came along, but a lot of things are being reabsorbed. You can just name a few: amino acids, glucose, ions. You asked for 2 things, so you can just state 2 things, okay. Or you can name other things also like amino acid, glucose, ions. That will be very much enough for you guys. Cool. Now, what are the 2 parameters that decide the amount of water that is reabsorbed in the kidney? So, it is not like it blindly takes in all the water. It will take in water according to how much water you already have in your body. Okay, how much water is already there. If it is already there in too much amount, will the nephron take it? No, you do not need it. Now, also on one more thing, that is how much amount of dissolved waste materials are there in the water. Okay, how much dissolved waste is there in water. So, basically I will tell you, suppose the ions are way too much in your blood vessels, the ions are way too much. Now, if ions are way too much, you are creating a hypertonic medium, solute is very much. So, you need to bring out solvent at this point of time. Then the dissolved waste is way too much, not in the water, in the blood, okay, not in the water, in the blood, sorry. I'm too sorry to confuse you. So, in the blood vessels, if you see, there are so many ions at this point of time. To make it a little dilute, you need to intake a little amount of water as well. So, that is how reabsorption takes place. So water, if it is already there, depending on that, if it is not there, then you are taking, okay. If it is already there, you don't take it. Now how much dissolved waste is there in the blood, that also is a big matter. Okay, so if you're worried about my handwriting, please don't worry, over here I have written it properly. So what do we have? Glucose, amino acid, salts, okay, are the major amount of water selectively reabsorbed as the urine flows along the tube, okay, tubule. Tubule is a part of nephron, okay. Now the amount of water reabsorbed depends on how much excess water is there in the body, 0.5 marks, that is half marks, and how much of dissolved waste is there to be excreted, how much dissolved waste is there which has to be excreted, depending on that also, okay, it is decided. So you can directly say how much amount of dissolved waste is there in the blood, that is also one big reason. Cool, works, chalo. Next question. A lot of waste is generated in neighborhood, however almost all of it is biodegradable. What impact will it have on the environment or human health? So the waste is there, but it is biodegradable, and we always say biodegradable waste are really good. Okay, so biodegradable is good because it can be degraded by biotic organisms, the microorganisms which are already there in the environment. But it does have impacts also, negative impacts also, as in how I'll tell you. So these waste, if it is accumulated way too much, what will happen? It will start stinking, it will give a foul odor. So that is one thing. Second thing, apart from giving a foul odor, there will be formation of so many microbes, germs and everything like that, which can give diseases to us. It will be a breeding ground for pests such as mosquito and things, you get it? And if mosquito and things are way too much, increasing way too much, obviously they are going to cause diseases to us. So we do not want that to happen as well. So which is the reason, when did I do all this thing? Okay, which is the reason for saying that even biodegradable waste, it has to be properly disposed, otherwise it will be a problem. So how do you frame this answer, my dear little champions? You can say like this: excess generation of biodegradable waste can be harmful as its decomposition is slow, obviously because it's a biological process, it will be slow, leading to production of foul smell and gases for a longer time. Okay, it can be breeding ground for germs that create unhygienic condition or can give rise to so many diseases. Cool, get 1 marks for each. Now if you are not aware about framing your answers, at that point of time you might be confused how to frame your answers. You will say foul smell and breeding grounds for germs, khatam, answer is khatam. No, you have to make it into 2 points and then only you have to write. That's when it will be totally khatam, you get it? So that is how you need to frame your answers. So if your 2-mark question, write 2 points, write it properly, underline this thing, my dear children. You have to stand out different from the crowd, then only you will be getting the marks, you get it? So yes, that's how it works. Fine. Now it's time for 3-marker questions. Chalo. The leaves of a plant were covered with aluminum foil. How would it affect the physiology of the plant? So first thing, leaves of the plant were covered with aluminum foil. Do you think it will affect the physiology of the plant if the leaf is covered? Okay, let's make a leaf and let me cover it. So this is the leaf and I am covering it with aluminum foil. First thing, stomata which were there, the small pores which were there for exchange of gases and water. 2 things are happening over here. One is what? Exchange of gases and water. Okay, exchange of gases happens in which all processes? Respiration, where oxygen is required and CO2 is given out. So I will say respiration is one such process. Photosynthesis, where CO2 is required, oxygen is given out. Photosynthesis. Now what do you call this process of water being removed? You call this as transpiration. And transpiration is needed for what? For basically creating a pull. Okay, transpiration pull, you remember when water molecules are lost, they are pulling the other water molecules also, and that way only the whole plant will be receiving enough amount of water, or the water will be there in the root area only. So for the water to come upside, that is why we have transpiration pull. So obviously water transport is affected. Water transport is affected. Now you tell me, dear children, how will you frame the answer? I gave you the gist. This is how things work. So if you're covering the stomata, basically when you're saying you're covering the leaf, you're covering the stomata. And if stomata is affected, exchange of gases will not be possible. If exchange of gases is not possible, rate of respiration will be declined, rate of photosynthesis will be a big problem. Yeah, and water loss won't be happening. If transpiration is not happening, then the water transport is affected. So there are 3 reasons which I am saying is very much important, and this will obviously change the physiology of the plant. Okay, and how will you frame the answer? Let's see that. No photosynthesis will occur, so no glucose will be made, obviously. Also, no respiration will take place as no oxygen will be taken in. So photosynthesis and respiration is done. No transpiration will occur, so there won't be no upward movement of water or minerals from the soil, as there will be no transpirational pull. Temperature regulation of leaf will be affected. Now this is the next point that we are having over here. So temperature regulation. So when water is being lost, isn't it giving a cooling effect? Isn't it giving a cooling effect to the leaves, my dear children? Yes. So if this temperature regulation is not being maintained, do you think other processes will be maintained? No. Your leaf will be damaged in a way. You get it? So there are 3 reasons. Okay, I clubbed them respiration and photosynthesis to 1 because it is exchange of gases only. Next thing is water. So water transport is affected. Now the third thing is temperature regulation, which gives a cooling effect. The loss of water gives a cooling effect. So please remember temperature. These are the 3 points that you need to write in your exam. And with this 3 points, you get 3 marks. Okay, get it? 1 point if you lose, you get 2 marks. 2 points if you lose, you get 1 mark. 3 points if you lose, you get 0 marks. So don't buy anda. Okay. Chalo. Now next part of this question, you are given an OR question. Either you can attempt this or you can attempt this. Now suppose you are attempting this. Let's see. How is lymph an important fluid involved in transportation? If lymphatic vessels get blocked, how would it affect the human body? Elaborate. So my dear children, how is lymph an important fluid involved in transportation? So basically what happens is that your blood vessels which are there, the capillaries which are there, when blood is moving in high pressure, some amount of plasma, some amount of white blood cells and everything is being moved outside. Okay, where children? In between the cellular space, in between the cells. You call this space as intercellular space. Okay, so these things are getting accumulated. And what do you call these things, this fluid which is getting accumulated? So over here other things are moving, still lot of plasma is going to move around in the capillary, lot of RBCs as platelets are going to move because they cannot easily pass through. What is passing through? Some amount of WBC and some amount of plasma is passing through. But still this some amount is also going to cause a huge lot of trouble if it stays there. Why? Because it might cause swelling. There's no need of over here, right? So what do you call this fluid as? You call this as lymph fluid. You call this as lymph fluid and it is colorless because there is no RBC. You got it? Now this lymph fluid is being collected. Okay, it is being collected by a different type of vessel, not the blood vessel that we usually have, but a different type of vessel which you call as lymphatic vessels, which can easily take up WBCs or whatever is there and the plasma and things like that. It can take bigger things. Okay, capillaries cannot take bigger things. For example, if you want to take fat, okay, the fat with the food which is getting digested in our body, it goes to the small intestine. There also digestion takes place, you know that, right? So there absorption of nutrients happen. But what about fat? Fat also has to be absorbed. Fat is also important for us. Little amount of fat has to be absorbed. The blood capillaries cannot do that, but can't take in big fat. Who is there to help with it? It is the lymphatic vessels. So along with the blood capillaries in your intestine, you have lymphatic vessels also, which is responsible for taking in of fat. So two very important functions I told you. One is draining out this interstitial fluid that you have, interstitial fluid or what do you call lymphatic fluid which you have, that is there. Okay, otherwise it will cause swelling. Second thing, it is also responsible for, lymphatic vessels are responsible for absorption of fat. So if your lymphatic vessels are getting blocked, both these functions are going to get affected, my dear children. Okay, chalo, let's answer. Lymph carries digested and absorbed fat from intestine and drains excess fluid from extracellular space. Okay, extracellular space is an outside the cell. space back into the blood. Blockage of lymphatic vessel will lead to water retention and poor fat absorption in the body. So first you say the functions, then you say what will happen, it does not happen. So poor water retention will be there, okay, there will be, that will lead to water retention and poor fat absorption in the body, my dear children. The fat would not be properly absorbed and there will be swelling also. If you want, you can write that also. Cool? Works? So this becomes the answer for a 3-marker question. It's not a 1 mark each. Basically, this gives 1 mark, this gives 1 mark and this gives 1 mark. So 2 marks for the function and 1 mark for what will happen if it is not happening. Okay? What will happen if the blockage is happening. Cool? Chalo. Next question. Why is damage to ozone layer a cause of concern? What are its causes and what steps are being taken to limit this damage? So why do you think damage to ozone layer is a cause of concern, my dear children? Ozone layer, which is there in the stratosphere, this particular layer that you have in the stratosphere, it is responsible for protecting you from the harmful UV rays which can cause cancer, eyesight issues and a lot of other things in our body. So there should be one layer that protects us from the harmful UV rays. If UV rays gets in, you will get lots and lots of diseases, my dear children. Now, what are the causes of ozone layer damage? The first and the very big cause for this is CFCs. What do you mean by CFC? CFC stands for chlorofluorocarbons, which are being released by ACs, okay, by refrigerators and stuff like that. And what does this exactly do? In chlorofluorocarbons, you have chlorine molecules. These chlorine which is there, it is going to attack ozone molecule. It goes and attacks ozone molecules, giving you what? When it goes and attacks ozone molecules, you get Cl plus O and O2. Cl and O comes together, you get ClO, you get O2. Again this O2 is also broken down. Again this O2 is also broken down and the thing goes on in a chain reaction. So basically, aren't you breaking down the ozone which is there? Yes. And if this ozone layer is being broken down, then obviously UV rays will come in, and it's a very fast process. This happens and the next chlorine atom which is there, it is going to react with the next one, and this is a chain of things that happens such that you get immense loss of ozone layer, my dear children. Now, what steps were taken to limit this damage? You know, there is something like United Nations Environment Program, UNEP. Okay, UNEP, who banned the use of CFCs, who thought that we should be doing something, and they banned the use of CFCs in the entire world, so that now CFC producing things are not being manufactured. And if it is not being manufactured, obviously you are controlling the damage to the ozone layer in some or the other way. So that was being done. But how do you frame the answer? You have to frame your answers properly. Damage to the ozone layer is cause of concern because the ozone layer shields the surface of Earth from harmful UV radiation from the sun, which causes skin cancer in human beings. First point. Synthetic chemicals like chlorofluorocarbons, which are used as refrigerants and the fire extinguishers, are the main reason for the depletion. So what are the causes? This is the cause. Now, what are the steps being taken? Steps taken to limit this damage. Many developing and developed countries have signed and are obeying the directions of UNEP, United Nations Environment Program, to freeze or limit the production and usage of what? CFCs at 1986. Okay, in the year 1986, and now, okay, now it has been seen that there's a lot of improvement. In the Arctic area, okay, in the Antarctic area over there you found the ozone layer for the first time. There is a depletion in the ozone layer, not ozone layer for the first time, a depletion, a hole in the ozone layer for the first time. Now it is seen to be healed because probably there are a lot of changes that had been made. These things were banned. You get it? So that is one very important thing, and that is how you need to frame your answers. Please put down point number 1, point number 2, point number 3, so that it becomes easy for your teacher to understand. I always say, when board examination is happening, there are a bunch of things to get corrected. You get it? So teachers are almost, they are in this verge of breaking down. Okay, at this point of time, they want proper answers, and let me tell you, not a biology teacher would be probably correcting your bio papers. There would be a chemistry teacher or a physics teacher who would be correcting your biology papers as well. So you have to be very specific. Why? Because they are given a marking scheme paper. So they just have to see the answers over there and match with yours. If it is matching, you get marks. If it is not, you don't get marks. So you have to be very specific out there with your answers and underline what is important. Show what is important. Okay? Cool? Works? Chalo. Next, section D, which is a 5 marker section, my dear children. Let's see. Why it is it, so we have an OR question, you can attempt this or you can attempt this. Cool, we will start with the first question. Why is it not possible to reconstruct the whole organism from a fragment in a complex multicellular organism? So I hope you know that there is some process that is known as fragmentation. And what happens in fragmentation? Fragmentation is seen in organisms like Spirogyra, okay, where they have the whole body, and over there, suppose this fragment is being cut. From this fragment, a new organism can be arised. Okay, you get it? So this is how things work in them. Spirogyra, all of them, if there is a multicellular organism, but still it is very simple. But what about us? In unique multicellular organism, very complex multicellular organisms like us, do you think if I cut my finger like this and I hope my fingers will be rebuilt? No, my dear children. Why? Because in my body, a complex multicellular organism's body, what is happening? The cells which are there, they are too complicated. They have now become tissues. Cells comes together to form tissues. Tissues come together to form organ. Organs come together to form what? Organ system. So there is a proper methodology that is taking place over here. There is a proper thing that is taking place over here. So it is not possible to reconstruct the whole organism, because obviously the cells which are specialized for forming this thing, forming fingers, okay, should be there. Yes, so we have much more specialized cells, my dear children, which might be lost, might have lost its function during the entire course of evolution and things like that. So whatever is formed at the beginning is formed, no more addition to it. Get it? So we do not have regenerative capacity. Our cells do not have very much amount of regenerative capacity. It is having very limited regenerative capacity. Only few cells has that. You get it? So how do you frame this answer? You can frame this answer like, the reason is that many multicellular organisms are not simply a random collection of cells. Specialized cells are organized as tissues, and tissues are organized into organs which have to be placed at definite position in the body. Therefore, cell by cell division would be impractical. It is not possible for us because our mechanism is a bit more complex. Now over here, sexual maturation of reproductive tissues and organs are necessary link for reproduction. So don't you think sexual maturation of reproductive tissues and organs are necessary for reproduction? Yes. Suppose the reproductive organs are not mature, do you think reproduction will be happening? No. Do you think gametes will be formed? Do you think without maturation of sexual organs like ovaries and testes, gametes will be formed? No. If gametes are not formed, do you think reproduction can happen? No, my dear children. Reproduction also would not be happening. Also, in our nature, we are built in a way that all our body parts have to be matured enough for undergoing the process of what? Sexual reproduction. Females will be having secondary sexual characters, for example, development of breast and things like that, so that if at all a baby is there, there should be a provision to help that baby being nurtured. You get it? Similarly, with the male reproductive system also, they should be having proper structure so that the reproduction process could also be happening in a proper way. You get it? So they also have male secondary sexual characters should be very proper in them as well. Okay, and secondary sexual characters are being controlled by the organs only. The organs have to be producing certain hormones such as testosterone and things like that. So obviously you need sexual maturation first. Get it? So how do you frame this answer? Sexual maturation of reproductive tissue is necessary link for reproduction because of the need for specialized cells called germ cell, that is gametes, to participate in sexual reproduction. The body of individual organism has to grow into its adult size. The rate of general body growth begins to slow down. Reproductive tissues begins to mature. So obviously when this is happening, what happens? The normal body growth, it slows down a bit, and the reproductive phase of our body is given more priority. Hence the reproductive tissues begins to mature, and the other things are getting slower down a little bit. A whole set of new changes in the appearance of the body takes place, like change in the body proportions, new features appear. This period during adolescence is known as what? Puberty. There are also changes taking place that are different between boys and girls. There are secondary sexual characters that I was talking about. Yeah. In girls, breast size begins to increase with darkening of the skin of the nipples at the tips of the breast. Also, girls begin to menstruate at around this time. If there is no menstruation, no gamete release. Okay. And if there is no gamete release, obviously there won't be any fusion of gametes as well. Boys begin to have thick hair growth on the face and their voices begins to crack. So, first part of the answer you have to say why it is important, because you need gametes. Okay. Now, also say why the body's development is important. Obviously, for sexual reproduction to happen, you have to be growing into an adult size with lots of secondary sexual characters happening in your body. And when does this take place? When you hit puberty, my dear children. And what are certain changes that is necessarily taking place? You have to talk about that as well. In that way, you get marks. Okay, 1.5 marks for this particular portion where you spoke why it is important and what changes there. And then you talk about the secondary sexual character and also a period about puberty. Again, 1.5 marks for that. 1.5 marks, 1.5 marks each. Okay, you get what? 3 marks. There 2 marks, you get 5 marks for the answer. Cool. Now, next or question, how are variations useful for species if there is drastic alteration in the niches? What do you mean by niche? Niche is basically the habitat that you are having. Okay, so how do you think variations would be helpful if there are changes in the living habitat which is there, drastic changes? Listen, my dear children, for example, you have bacteria, 2 bacteria, okay, bacteria A and bacteria B. Bacteria A has less amount of variation, whereas bacteria B has lots of variation in them. Now, all of a sudden the temperature changed in the area where they were living, but A didn't have any variation which could help it survive, but B had, which is why it survived, my dear children. So, don't you think for survival in certain situations, you need variations to be there, because certain variations would be helping you in surviving when there is drastic change in the habitat or basically the niche. You get it? So, how do you frame that answer? Let's see. If the niche were drastically altered, the population would be wiped out completely. However, some variations were to be present in few individuals in these population. There would be chance for them to survive. Variation is thus useful for survival of species over time, my dear children. You get 2 marks for this. Write it properly. First thing, you write, if there is no variation, all of them will be wiping out. First thing, what is the solution for it? Variation is there, which is why at least few of them will be surviving. If few of them are surviving, they will reproduce and they will give rise to more of their kind. You get it? And they will survive better. So, there is no wiping out of the whole species, it will get extinct. The whole species will get extinct if there is no variation that is there. Get it? Yes. Now, over here, explain how the uterus and placenta provide necessary conditions for proper growth and development of the embryo after implantation. What do you mean by implantation? My dear children, so I hope you know that there is uterus. In the uterus, the innermost layer that you see, it is known as endometrium. What do you call it? Endometrium. Now, the embryo which is the embryo means is a bunch of cells. You can just think of it as a bunch of cells. It comes and gets implanted over here, gets embedded into the endometrium, and then initially the endometrium is the layer that provides nourishment to the embryo. Slowly the embryo as well as the uterine tissue, it starts forming the next thing which will provide high amount of nourishment, and that thing is known as placenta, my dear children. So, explain how the uterus and the placenta provide necessary conditions for proper growth. First thing, when initially implantation happens, at this point of time, endometrium is something that will be providing nourishment to the embryo. Slowly, the embryonic tissue as well as the uterine wall will be helping in the formation of placenta, and once placenta is being formed, there will be proper passage of nutrients, there will be exchange of gases between the mother and the child. Okay, there will be exchange of waste materials from the child to the mother and things like that. So, how do you frame this answer? Let's see it. So, the lining of the uterus thickens and is richly supplied with blood to nourish the growing embryo. What do you call this lining as? You call this lining as endometrium. Okay, what do you call this as? Endometrium. So, the lining of the uterus thickens, that is endometrium thickens, and is richly supplied with blood to nourish the growing embryo. Next thing, the embryo gets nutrition from the mother's blood with the help of placenta. It is embedded in the uterine wall. Okay. Now, it contains villi on the embryo side of the tissue, on the mother's side are blood spaces which surround the villi. So, I told you the embryo which is there and the mother's uterine tissue which is there, together they form the placenta, right. So, from the embryo side you get some things like this, okay, certain villi like structures like this, and from the mother's end you get spaces like this, blood spaces, where the mother's blood vessels are going to ooze out blood into these spaces, okay, and here these villi are supplied with the blood vessels which are connected to the baby, my dear children. It is connected to the baby. So, what happens, the blood comes over here, but there is no blood and blood touching, okay, please remember that. In the blood, whatever important nutrients have been there, it has been taken up by the villi, which is richly supplied with blood vessels again. So, this important oxygen and things like that, with the help of blood vessels, they would be moving to the embryo which is there, or the fetus which is growing. So, you get it? So, this villi that you see is a part of the placenta which is formed by the embryo side. From mother side, what do you have? You have these blood filled spaces where the blood is going to be given around. Okay, together this whole structure is known as placenta. So, now I hope you will be able to understand. So, it contains villi on embryo side of the tissue. On the mother's side, you have blood spaces which surrounds the villi. This provides a large surface area for glucose and oxygen to pass from the mother to the embryo. The developing embryo will also generate waste substances which can be removed by transferring them into the mother's blood through the placenta. Again, the baby will also give out certain things which will be moving from here to here into the blood spaces as well. Okay, if you want a proper picture of it, I can show you. Okay, so listen, suppose there are villi like this, and there are blood filled spaces like this where the mother's blood vessels are going to give out blood. So, over here just imagine that it is covered by the blood. In the villi, what do you have? You have again blood vessels coming from the baby's end, and these blood vessels basically they are going to join together to the navel over here. So, what do you have? You have the blood vessels coming and joining over here. What do you call this structure as? This structure is the umbilical cord. Suppose mother's blood came in, okay, mother's blood came in, it had too much amount of oxygen. This oxygen has been taken up, this oxygen goes, and the baby gets the oxygen. What about the waste materials? The waste materials from here, I am marking it in red, it will be moving outside. This is waste, this is waste. So, if there is less waste in the mother's blood, obviously from here to here, from where it is more, it will be moving to where it is less. Then things will be moving back into the mother's blood and it will be removed, my dear children. Similarly, CO2 also is given out, and this CO2 is being taken back by the mother. So, oxygen is being taken in and CO2 is given out, waste material is being given out as well. You get it? And all the important nutrients also. The nutrients also is being, the nutrients that you have, that is also being taken up. So, 2 arrows for the things that have been taken up, 1 arrow for the things that are being given out. So, this is waste and this is CO2 that is being given out. These 2 things, 1 and 2 things are given out, and 3 and 4 things are taken in. This is how things work. So, this is the placenta which is formed from the embryonic side and also from the mother's side. Initially, what do you have? You just have the endometrium. So, that is how you are going to frame your answer. Just read through it. You will get the PDF of it. You just have to comment it down if you need it. Okay, we will anyways provide you with the help of a link which is given through the WhatsApp, but you have to let us know as well. Okay, if there is something that we can help you with. So, this is how you need to frame your answers, my dear student. For each point that you see over here, you get half marks, 1.5 marks or 1 mark. So, you have to be very careful. Always remember, you have to mention villi in there. Villi is a part of placenta. Blood spaces of mother is also a part of placenta itself. Cool. So, the formation of placenta, it takes some time, which is why initially you have endometrium. So, I hope you are done with these questions as well, which is 5 marker question. Now, let us move on to Last section, section number E, where we have 4 marker question, my dear children. It's very interesting question coming directly from genetics. So let's solve it. So Pooja has green eyes while her parents and brother have black eyes. So let's make it. Pooja has green eyes. So I am writing green eyes over here, okay? And Pooja's brother has black eyes. And what? Parents also have black eyes. So parents black eyes, and the brother also has black eyes. So I can see clearly that black is something that is dominant. Black is something that is dominant, my dear children, which is why most of them have it. So in that case, let me assume capital B is for black and small b is for green color, which is there. And recessive characters only appear when you have 2 small alleles together in the homozygous condition, otherwise they do not appear. So the father has to be black like this and the mother has to be black like this. That is only when the small b's have a chance to come together. If both of them are capital B, capital B, capital B, capital B, then obviously all the alleles will be B, capital B only. If father is capital B, mother is capital B, small b, still there any combination that you make, one combination will arise like this, but anyway there will be one to overshadow it, it will also be black. So if the one child is green, that means the condition is somewhat like this. Now if the parents are like this, my dear children, capital B, small b, capital B, small b, let's make the gametes. Capital B, small b, capital B, small b. So I am erasing it for some time. Okay, when I fuse this with this, I get capital B, and I fuse this with this, I get capital B, small b, fusing this with this, capital B, small b, fusing this with this, small b, small b. So over here I see 3 of them, basically they are black eyes. This is the dominant, there is one to dominant over here. This is the recessive one with green eyes, and probably this is the one that Pooja has. Pooja has green eyes, whereas the brother has black eyes. Now the brother's genotype, if you are asked, it can be like this also, it can be like this also, we never know. Okay, so what is the first question? On the basis of the above given information, is green eye color a dominant or recessive trait? It is a recessive trait because not much amount of people in their family have this. Justify your answer. Justified it because not much amount of people have it. Parents are also having black eyes, the brother is also having black eyes, so probably it is a recessive character, not everyone has it. Now what is a possible genetic makeup of Pooja's brother's eye color? I told you, he can be either capital B, or it can be capital B, small b, my dear children. Now what is the probability that the offspring of Pooja and Ravi, who is Ravi? Let's see. So Pooja's husband Ravi has black eyes. Oh, okay, chalo. Pooja's husband Ravi has black eyes while his mother has green eyes and father has black eyes. Okay. Pooja's husband Ravi, his father has black eyes, mother has green eyes. So for green, what do you need? Small b, and for black it can be like this or it can be like this. Okay. What has Ravi has? Ravi also has black eyes. Ravi has black eyes. Okay. So okay, we have to be sure about Ravi's eyes, then only we can find Pooja's and Ravi's offspring. Yeah. So how do we find it? Let's take this. Suppose Ravi's father is like this. Okay, in that case what will happen? Let's see that. So if it is like this, so I will say capital B, small b is there, small b is there. Cool. Now when they fuse, when this and this fuses, you get capital B, small b, capital B, small b, small b, small b, small b, small b. So I get 2 of them with black eyes and 2 of them with green eyes. But this could be a genotype for Ravi. So Ravi has a chance. Ravi's chance can be like this or it can be like this. How I am saying it can be like this? Because suppose, can it be like this? Can it be like this? Oh, sorry. Do you think it will be like this? Capital B, is there any chance? Let's see. Suppose Suppose, my dear children, if you have any doubts like that, anyway, I tried to put something in your brain. I hope you understood that. But anyways, if you still didn't understand, I'll put it back. So the situation was like this. Anyways, whatever genotype you are going to get, don't you think it will be like this only for black? Because anyway, the mother is small b, small b. So do you have to be confused about Ravi's eyes being black like this or being black like this? No. So always understand, if one parent is having recessive character, that means your genotype will be not homozygous, it has to be heterozygous dominant. So your Ravi's thing is already been sorted, you don't have to even do this. Please understand that. Okay. So it is being sorted over here. So what is the probability that the offspring of Pooja and Ravi will be having green eyes? Also show the inheritance of eye color in the offspring with the help of suitable cross. So you have to make a cross and then you have to explain. So how do you make a cross and you explain? I will make it over here itself so that it becomes easy for you to understand. Okay. So Pooja's eyes, you see small b is there. This is Pooja's eyes. Ravi's eyes is capital B, small b. What are the gametes? Gametes looks like this, my dear children. Okay. This and this fuses, you get capital B, small b. This and that fuses, you get small b, small b. This and this get fuses, you get small b, capital B, small b. This and this fuses, you get small b, small b. So you see two of them black, two of them green. So can I say there is 50% chance for the child to have green eyes? Yes, because two of them are having green eyes and two of them are having black eyes. So can I say there is 50% chance? Yes. So what is the probability? There is only 50% chance, my dear children. Also show the inheritance, you have to show it like this. Okay, better you write this first, the father first and then the mother. Now, 50% of the offsprings of Pooja's brother are green. With the help of cross, show how this is possible. So now it is said Pooja's brother, you remember Pooja's brother who was having a genotype like this, it is said that 50% of his offspring, 50% of his offspring has what? Green eyes. Now you tell me when it is possible. When will it be possible for the for them to have 50% of them to have green eyes? Children, if he, Pooja's brother, is crossing with another female who is having something like this, obviously get black eyes. If he is crossing with a female who has something like this, again you get black eyes itself. There is no other possibility. Or you have green eyes also, or probably you can have green eyes also. Okay, but it is that 50% of the offspring have green eyes. Is that possible over here? Do you think 50% of the offsprings will be having green eyes if this was the case? If you are not understanding my question, I will show you. I am asking, suppose this is Pooja's brother, we know that. Brother's wife, if she is like this, do you think this cross will give you 50% of green eyed children? No, dear children. Oh here, see. So this is the gametes. This is the gamete that we are having. When this fuses with this, you get capital B, capital B, capital B, small b, capital B, small b, small b, small b. This is only 25% of the offspring that has green eyes. For them to be green eyes, what do you need? You just did that with Pooja and Ravi. Okay, where Ravi had capital B, small b and Pooja had small b, small b. This is the case when they will have 50% green eyes and 50% black eyes. Again, I am going to show you. So these questions are related. These questions are anyway related, my dear children. Just to confuse you guys, they do like this. Okay, so small b, small b, small b, small b. 50% with green eyes, 50% with black eyes. And tada, things are being done. Cool. So 50% of offsprings of Pooja's brother are green eyes. That means you are following the same cross that you were doing somewhere over here. Okay, with the help of a cross, show how this is possible. Make a Punnett square or make it like this and show. So how do you frame the answers for everything? Yes, green eye color is recessive and as it will express only in homozygous condition. This is the answer for the first question. Is it dominant or recessive? It is dominant or recessive. It is recessive, my dear children, as it is not found in lot of organisms in their family. Second thing, it is only expressed in homozygous condition. Now, the next question, what is the genotype of brother? It can be capital B or capital B, small b. Now, you are asked about Ravi and whose cross, my dear children? Pooja's cross. Okay, and you had to find out how much progeny will have green eyes. So 50% of them will be having green eyes according to it. So what did you do? You put one genotype over here, one parent over here, another parent over here. Small b for Pooja, capital B small b for Ravi. Okay, this and this fuses, you get this. This and this fuses, you get this. This is known as Punnett square. What is it? Punnett square, my dear children. Okay. Now, yeah, so that is one case. Now, this or option you had where you were crossing the brother, you were seeing the brother and the wife. Okay, if 50% of the progeny have green eyes, what is their genotype? So, same thing, just like Pooja and Ravi, you have to draw it again and show it to them. Okay, so this is the Punnett square, and with this, I hope you understood the question really well. If you still have doubt, don't think twice, just ask me. I don't think I have left any comment unread. Okay, always if there is a comment, I give reply to that. So please make sure, okay, any of us, okay, teachers, we definitely reply to you. So please make sure that you're putting down your doubts in the comment section. We are here to solve your doubts as well. Cool? I hope that works, and if you think that this particular video was helpful for you, do not forget to subscribe to our channel. And yes, lots of love. Do not be worried. Everything is going to fall in its place. Bye-bye. Take care.